Hey everybody, this is Petey from the Spin Rack. We also
Calvin
have
Ellis, ready to rock. Calvin
okay.
Ellis, and I'm ready to rock.
All right, great. I didn't know if you were ready. As stuff trickles in and we question the cast of the Fantastic Four, they've jumped the gun to letting us know that they're using Galactus because they introduced. We heard it was a rumor there was going to be a female Silver Surfer, and every time you say no, it's not going to be that. It's not going to be Pedro Pascal. Then we find out it is going to be a female Silver Surfer, and not like one of these other characters that they created. It's going to be Shala Ball. She's going to be the female Silver Surfer. And this means it's going to be a Galactus story, almost obviously same retelling, but using Marvel kind of. I don't know if it's going to be homecoming type of stuff, which would be more stuff catered to the audience, or will it be something closer to the original Galactus story? But if you have to introduce Alicia, you can't really do that, so it's not going to take enough time. So we'll have to figure. What are your initial thoughts on this, Cal?
Yeah. Hmm. How can I put this? This sucks. Why would they do this to us? Again, they have not learned from their previous mistakes. There is no reason to do this. On every single level that you can think about, anything that would service a long term good story, this does not help. We have yet to see the Silver Surfer introduced into this universe, and so we're getting the Silver Surfer as Shala Ball. Okay, let's say you want to do a female Silver Surfer. We already have two other female heralds who have their own stories that are not connected to Norrin Rad at all. We don't get to see Shala Ball introduced as his love interest because for whatever reason they've come up with, but we don't even get to see Norrin Rad, who is the actual Silver Surfer introduced either. So it is so it is so self-flagellating, the things that they decide to do in terms of the casting and the story. Where does this go? The idea of Shalabal was introduced in Silver Surfer 1 as a love interest for Norrin Rad, but also one of the reasons why he was so pining to get off Earth so he could go back to be with her. And this was a big driving force. Okay, one of the better issues of the Silver Surfer is when he finally is able to make it off Earth, but has to end up coming back because Shalabal's been kidnapped by Mephisto, and he ends up reconciling himself to his imprisonment to save her. So these are great stories that you could actually tap, great love stories that you could tap as well, but they're not interested in that. Okay, so we decided to go with Shalabal. Okay, well, what's supposed to happen? Are they going to reverse the situation where she's now trying to escape to get back to Norrin Rad? Of course not, because we don't want to see a woman who's pining to get back to her love interest, especially if he's a man. We don't want to see that at all. So that's not going to happen. So these type of decisions that are being made, it's like, I don't understand these decisions. You want the Silver Surfer, okay, and you want Shalabal, okay. Well, we'll split. We'll somehow get the best of both worlds and make her the Silver Surfer. Like it's What If number 37, which is where she actually did receive the power cosmic. I don't understand these decisions. I don't, especially when you have viable source material that shows you what was successful with this character. I don't understand these decisions. What's more, they have not learned from making these type of decisions that they don't resonate well with the audience overall.
One of the things, I mean, I agree on. I wouldn't go with your initial attack comment on it, but I can't say I disagree because I know you went a little rougher on them. I'm saying the hard part for me is that knowing if the first series of FF movies, if they got to the third one, they would have gotten to a female herald. They clearly set up that they were going to do a female herald, and it feels like at some point when they got the Fantastic Four back, they had this plot, this script came with it, with a female herald saving the Earth and going away with Galactus, and they're just like, oh, that we can't do the Silver Surfer because he's already been done. What if we give you a female one? We'll kind of use what we can from this script because it felt like in Homecoming they had I think Sam Raimi had the plot of what's the plot of the fall, the the girlfriend and the supervillain was going to be the plot. I don't know if it was going to be the Vulture. I think it was going to be the villain from Amazing Spider-Man. But at the same time, it feels like there's leftover bits to say, hey, a female herald. And they're like, nope, we'll keep it so the fans know that we're not screwing them over. We're going to give them a female herald. It's going to be Shalabal. And you pointed out, thankfully pointed out, it was first done in, what's that thing? In What If. But it's also done on Earth X. I remember you not liking Earth X, but I'm bringing it up. Earth X had Silver Surfer and Shalabal together on the board, and I'm like, isn't that kind of against what's supposed to happen? That Surfer never really gets to go with Shalabal, find a way to keep them apart. What are your thoughts on that? For 2 seconds of Earth X, were you with it? Am I right or wrong?
No, you're right. I mean, look, we don't really even get in Earth X. We don't. This isn't Shalaval as the Silver Surfer because it's a whole team called the Silver Surfers. So that's
Ooh.
she's like one of a bunch of them. If you really want to see Shalaval the Silver Surfer, you have to read What If number 37. That's the backup story of the Silver Surfer backup story. The lead story is what if the Thing and the Beast continue to mutate, but the backup story deals with her getting the power cosmic, and that would actually be her first. That's her first appearance as Silver Surfer, if you will. This other one, she's just one of a bunch of other Silver Surfers, because it's like a group of them at the end of the day. But hey, who cares? I have never seen people so adamant on shooting themselves in the foot.
Well, I'm glad you pointed out because you made the Earth X story even worse than what I thought it was. But the hard part of it, the bad part is they using the character from the Ozarks, the actress Julia Garner. Like that, she's obviously a fan favorite. So it's like when you argue about it, shouldn't it be the Silver Surfer, or maybe you could do some other. Since you already use the Silver Surfer, maybe use Terrax or somebody else, or Nova would be the first initial one. They're like, no, what's wrong with this? And then it connects to the story. Shalabal actually like, and she's a great actress, and she's a great. That's the other part, which is the defense of it. It's like, look, you have existing stories with these characters, and even if the I think the least dynamic would be the Airwalker, but at the same time, the way John Buscema did him, he seemed like an immense like character. So it was like, even though it turned out to be a robot that was killed at some point, like when he comes there and he's just tossing around the FF, he felt like the grandeur of the character. It just was the design wasn't there. Terrax might have the definite look, but it's just like feels like you kind of it feels like you just decided to do your Reese's peanut butter cup and something that's not going to work out for you. It's like, oh, we're gonna give you a Silver Surfer, but this time it's female. No, we don't want to give you Nova. We don't want to do that. We don't want to waste your time on that. And it's like it's hard to say what this is going to be because there's so much. And Marvel is still sitting on so much alternate timeline stuff. Are they going to be an alternate timeline? They still haven't deal with our timeline is actually the real timeline, because I always bring up that, they have the Statue of Liberty that has not only a shield, but it's still full. The copper hasn't changed colors. So it's one of those things where it's like, are they going to do this and then at the end say, okay, we're back to the real universe and the real Silver Surfers at the end? It's just like, you don't need to do this in the first place. You don't need to explain all this stuff. You need to just get to the stories that are already there and not complicated. And that's one of the things when I always go to X2. Sometimes when you have a complicated stories, you don't want to complicate it. You want to keep it simple. And I was just like, Lady Deathstrike is a cool villain, but her story is crazy. And I don't like the idea of trying to do Mojo and all this other stuff in the back history. And then the X2 said, all right, this guy who created Wolverine, who's also, trying to take out the X-Men, he also created Lady Deathstrike. And it's simple. And it don't have nothing to do with, it doesn't have to, you don't have to kill yourself with all this backstory. But here, you're going worse, where you're like, you know what? I'm going to complicate it. I'm going to say, I want to use a female Silver Surfer, and I don't care what the other story is. I'm using the girl that's in there, and it's just like the whole point of the character was that they're all reserved in that there's nothing, nobody can do anything, and Norman Rad is the one that's like, I gotta go see Galactus, and he like he goes sees him, and he comes up with an option that saves this planet. And that's the kind of hook to the story. If you're doing, and that's the thing, if you're doing a Silver Surfer story, you revolve the story around that. You're doing a Fantastic Four story, you have two stories you have to build at the same time, and you're not doing a TV series, so you don't get to play around saying, "I want to do this episode, this part of the episode here," or at the same time say how. Listen, I think the best at it, you could go to the Ten Commandments, but I can go to like Superman the movie where you have a period where you have the Krypton, which is you only have Kal-El as a baby. In all the other periods, you know, Clark Kent and or Superman are the key parts of the story. You have something that's going to take you far out of the story for a long period of time to develop. So it's kind of hard. You have two movies going on at the same time, and you're going to force fit it. You could do if you're going to do Infinity War. You don't have characters that are already set up. Like they had characters that were set up, so it worked when you saw just a little bit of Thanos and Gamora's origin, and then they went to the movie where it said, "Oh, this could be a Thanos movie," and that's the thing. We're doing a Fantastic Four. If you're wrapping the Fantastic Four around the Galactus and Silver Surfer movie, we're just seeing. This is our first seeing of the Fantastic Four, so that's why I say it's kind of tough to do. So it's sad that they would do this and they would kind of throw in someone that I know people want to see on screen, and oh, this is a new part of the film. She's part of the family now, so it's kind of for people who are into that, into the actress, then it's a win for them. But people in the comics say, hey, this could lead you down a path where the stories don't work. Then you got that. Any other thoughts, Cal?
This sucks. I mean, and I was discussing this with Mars, where at one point I was selling books, and there was a genuine interest in reading the original stories.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's like you would watch something, like you watch a series, like teledrama or something of other, and then you're like, all right, I like that. Well, it's based on a book. Let me read the book. Maybe I'll enjoy that as well. And so you get some cross, you get a nice synergy going between the two. And at some point, they decided our cinematic universe, anything that deals with live action, is just going to be its own thing. There's not going to be any interplay, which they're going to realize is a mistake because James Gunn on the other side with DC understood, oh, we're actually better off. We're actually better off if there is that particular synergy because we support each other in doing that. And so, the films, the comic, we want people, okay, we want people to feel that this is all one big universe, whether they're reading the comic or they're going to see the film. Marvel has decided, no, we're just going to do this stuff is just going to be our own thing. Why? The biggest reason is that it was overwhelmingly successful. And while it was successful at making all this money, they don't want to have to be in the pocket of, well, look, this is what happened in the comic. I forget you. You don't know what you're doing. Look how much money we're making. So now they keep doing this stuff. They keep making these needless changes. And once these changes are in, they have been getting feedback as to these changes are not resonating with the audience. And then two, they keep serving up these meatballs for these trollers, okay, or well, I don't know if trollers is the right word, but trolls, yes, who are just waiting for them to do stuff. All they got to do is just sit back and wait and say, okay, it's Monday. Marvel probably made another gender swap. Let's go and attack them. And they just keep feeding these dudes. They keep feeding them. These guys don't care if Marvel's successful or not. They just care about the clicks that they're getting on their particular channels and podcasts.
Mm-hmm.
And they just keep giving it to them. Like, okay, here's some more. Here's some more. Here's some more. Here's some more. And then when the whole thing is over, what happens? You get a movie that underperforms. Okay, you get an unreliable product. And then the biggest thing is that they keep the guys who are the trolls target Marvel's main audience, which is males. Right? Every successful movie has had a preponderance, a majority of male support coming out for it. That's Black Widow, that's Captain Marvel, that's the first Avengers film, and they keep making these changes, which keeps feeding the narrative, okay, of this whole MCU narrative. So I mean, and it's kind of, I don't know. The idea is that what the Marvel Cinematic Universe is going to be 50% in every movie. It's going to be 50% male, 50% female every single movie. Is that what they're driving for? That type of unrealistic, that type of unrealistic display. Like, okay,
Yeah. And the hard part, the other part that I don't know, the part that they miss when they talk about the critics or the fans, the same fans that are being like, wait a second, Michael Keaton doesn't look like Batman. Oh, look at it, like this, that, and the other. Those complaints, which can be drowned out by the success of a movie, were just like saying, hey, look at Batman. The what's the name? The reviewers were like, look at the cool gadgets and the car. So it's one of those things where you have to look at it and be like, this could be the failure of any movie is not because you have comic book fans saying stuff and like the people who have been like sometimes those a lot of the bigger fans that make you your billions probably have a hard time even reading comic books and saying which direction am I supposed to go. It's like, don't you take a newspaper and kind of you've done a news strip, right? You've seen go here and then you go to there, even if the artwork isn't that seamless. It's like, so this thing of turning to the fans and being like, you comic fans, you guys have destroyed, I always bring up Misery, where they try to go to the fans as the ones who want to torch it. But it's like, in the same, back when comics were a success, like, when comics were a big success, you had capital F fans like us, and then you had the casual readers who would pick it up and might put it in their back pocket, keep it for a while, read it a few times, and then put it down somewhere in their house with the rest of their toys and whatnot, and their parents telling them to clean up the room. Whereas the major fans that are going to the comic store and this, that, and the other, there's a different split. And that's the thing that at some point there was more of the casual than the capital F fans. So that's what it's the Marvel, like early Stan Lee, that's what they were looking for, was the regular people, not the bigger fans that were going to say, hey, the Hulk has 3 feet, 3 toes. Can you send me a no prize? Like they would lose it over those things. But those aren't those that majority of people aren't going to be the ones that torch your movie. You guys are torching your movie. It's not connecting with the audience, and you're allowing the trolls to have their field day because they're seeing the non-success, and now they can speak on it and they can see the trend of how you're turning it from what it was to what it is now. And there are, and maybe in the same time there is. I don't think that Stan and Jack, as far as doing solo female characters, went and killed themselves creating a female character that matches up with the the male characters. But at the same time, there are other ones that came later that you could try to do stories with. But at the same time, whenever you do a story with, you kind of chicken out on what you're planning on doing. So you just kind of just keep having to take from the male characters, and at the same time you're doing your own stories. So you might as well just create one because you got your characters you're creating and see what happens. But everyone knows that's why they keep going on the coattails of other characters and changing the name and saying that's a lot harder to do. To say, here's my version of a Marvel character. This is a Kevin Feige character from What If, and I put it out there and it doesn't succeed. Then you turn to the audience and say, toxic fans, like, no, the audience is who you need to connect with. Not worry about what the toxic fans are doing. We've done numerous episodes on that sort of thing, and have different views on it. But at the same time, you have to do successful movies, and whether the first movie is the first what was it, the Die Hard, when you're like, all right, he's trying to save his he's trying to catch up with his wife in the first two. In the third, he's trying to save New York, which connected less with the audience. But then when you go to the fourth, it's him trying to save his daughter, and the fifth, his son is an agent, so he's kind of thinking that he's going to help him, but it's kind of a twist where it turns into that. But the dynamic is still Bruce Willis. That's the movie. You don't go away from your source. And if you have a character, which was like Monica Rambeau or Cal Danvers, you don't chicken out on them in their story and turning into this soft stuff. Try to find the stories that, and I'm not talking about Rogue, but having her the moment that I was in the movie of Captain Marvel when she was fighting Skrulls, and then they took that away. So it's like, what do we got here? Nothing. We got them. We got more Skrulls dying, and we're supposed to cry. I can't cry for Skrulls. I know how they like being mean and nasty, and you could have utilized Galactus eating their world as a major thing, but we've already done it in what's the name. So what do we got Galactus for? So anyway, I went. I think I trailed off on this portion too long, but I agree with what you're saying. How the trolls can now pick up and say MCU and all that other stuff, and there's nothing you can do because the stuff isn't succeeding. Any other last words on this? Don't you do it to me.
Uh,
Don't you do
uh,
it.
okay. I won't do it. This is trash.
All right, spin a rack. I told you not to, but you did anyway. Spin a rack.
We're out.
Out.